everybody, welcome to Que Golazo. We have Roger Gonzalez to break down CONMEBOL World Cup South American qualifiers, and Jonathan Johnson, JJ, returns to talk about the Nations League and the teams that finally made it to the European Championships. Stay right here because here we go. And Roger is one of the only people at CBS that I can just deeply, passionately just go on and on about CONMEBOL South American World Cup qualifiers. It's not an insult to anybody, all right? It's just the facts, okay? So Roger, since I have you, let's talk about CONMEBOL as we see it. On Tuesday, we have some big games. It's always big games in this continent, with starting off with Venezuela hosting Chile, Ecuador hosting Colombia in the early kickoffs. Then at 6 p.m. Eastern, we have Paraguay hosting Bolivia, a huge one, Uruguay hosting Brazil, and it ends it all with Peru hosting Argentina. Some big games. And just to recap everybody in terms of the standings, Brazil remains perfect right now, 3 out of 3 with 9 points. Argentina got that draw against Paraguay. Paraguay continued their amazing run in Buenos Aires, where they haven't lost since 1973. So they have 7 points. Ecuador in third place, with Uruguay in fourth. And then it goes down to Paraguay, Chile, Colombia, Peru, and Venezuela and Bolivia continue without any points. From these games, let's begin. Let's go through each one real fast, I guess. Let's begin with Ecuador, Colombia. Roger, super talented teams, both of them, but both also kind of vulnerable defensively. And again, I think the weather, the location, Quito will be a factor here. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I think it should be a lot of fun. I think there's, like you said, two teams that defensively have some issues. We could see quite a high-scoring game, which obviously Colombia has been a part of recently. And I think, Ecuador is a team that, sitting in third place, no one really thought, it's early still, but they would be in this position. Obviously had that really good win over Uruguay. And their coach, Gustavo Alfaro, is someone who I've known for a long time. And speaking with him recently, he's been really excited by what he's seen. He's been surprised kind of at, how well this team has come together so quickly. He came in late to the process, right before kind of qualifying started. Not, he hasn't had a whole lot of time to build this team. And, I think, for him having his first experience, when it comes to a national team, he's someone who's always been able to do more with less. We saw that with Arsenal de Sarandí winning, the Argentina first division in the past. He won a Copa Sudamericana there, beating America of Mexico. And so he's someone who knows how to grind out those results. And I think, when it comes to it, come the 2022 World Cup, I think they will be close. I think they'll certainly stay in contention to qualify. And we've seen their national team, their youth national teams, and the talent that they have. And I think it's a nation that's on the rise. And Colombia won't be easy, but we've seen some inconsistencies from Colombia, so I wouldn't be surprised if Ecuador wins it.
Yeah, it should be a good game. Let's not forget that this is exactly how Ecuador started in the Russia qualifiers as well, so well. And then suddenly after the break, they flopped. But hopefully, for the sake of that country, because they're so talented, that won't happen this time around. Well, Venezuela, Chile, very quickly. I mean, Venezuela need that win. Chile is just tricky, just, with Reinaldo Rueda bringing in all the old school people. They got that big win against Peru, Arturo Vidal, once again, with 2 goals there. One of them a ridiculous finish, unstoppable. But they travel to Venezuela. Venezuela need this win. How do you see it? Very quickly, Roger.
Yeah, that's going to be, it's not 2 more teams that have had some defensive issues, and Chile really, going with those Asian players in the midfield and in attack. So I could see that one going either way, certainly. But when you look at Venezuela, 3 matches, no goals, it's hard to see, them finding that scoring touch. I think Soteldo will be important. He's a really good player who needs to be a bit sharper in the attacking third.
All right, we'll quickly skip as Paraguay, Bolivia. Apologies to both. I feel like Paraguay will take this one at home. I just start whenever Bolivia. It's tough for Bolivia when they play at home in La Paz with that 12th man. Away from home, it's even trickier. Let's talk about the 2 big ones. Uruguay, Brazil. Finally, Uruguay did something that they haven't done in they've never done it, which is win in Barranquilla. They beat Colombia. So now they host Brazil, who's perfect right now. Huge game. Talk to me about this one.
Yeah, it's certainly the game of the week, I think, when it comes to any national team matchup. So should really, be a lot of fun. We've seen Uruguay, playing with Suarez and Cavani. Feels like, 2014 all over again. But they're still the guys up top. They both changed clubs. They both scored lately. I think it's a game that obviously for Brazil, will be quite tricky whenever they get together. I think it's certainly going to be physical, emotional, and we'll see if Brazil can overcome, some of the absences they have. But I could see Uruguay, being the team that makes Brazil drop points for the first time in the competition.
Yeah, this one could be a sneaky draw, I feel. A sneaky draw, I think. But ending it all with Peru, my Peru against Argentina. Just for listeners' sake, due to the huge political unrest right now in Peru, at this moment, the game's still happening, but, keep your eye on it. Just there's so much going on in my beautiful country right now that we don't know yet if for certain if this game's going to go on. But as we speak, it should be happening. But regardless, football aside, it's a big one. Peru losing against Chile, defensively looking a little bit weak. They can always score goals, but, escaping with a point against Paraguay, then losing to Brazil, then Chile. To me, this is really a must win. But Argentina, second in the table, Roger, but they haven't been great. It's not like they've been imposing. How do you see this one?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think if I were you, I would feel pretty confident in Peru doing something in this one. And I think part of that is because you think of Argentina, you think of all the players they've had in the past, and they currently have Messi. But this is a team with 7 points that haven't been convincing at all in any of the games. I think they've been quite mediocre and quite fortunate to have won 2 of them. So it's really a team that when you watch them play, Scaloni doesn't have really a whole lot of experience. I think that shows with some of his selections. Looking at the team and how they play in attack, it's just so often drop Messi back, give the ball to him, and hope he can do something. And it's just so predictable at this point that I expect them to continue to struggle when it comes to just their play and attack. And they've been able to grind out results, but this is far and away from an Argentina team that is a top contender. And I think someone who we'll see in this match that could make a difference is Lo Celso of Tottenham. He's someone who came in off the bench against Paraguay, got an assist on a corner kick, set up a goal for Messi that was called back through VAR, but someone who looked really lively and looked really comfortable. I think he'll play in this match, and I think he can make a difference, but I don't go into this match expecting Argentina to win it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very, very difficult, but we will see as the CONMEBOL roller coaster continues and ends on Tuesday, definitely for 2020. See, this is why I love having Roger on, because we can talk about the US, we can talk about any other league, and also include South America. Roger, always good to have you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, man.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Golazo Pod. We have our friend Jonathan Johnson, JJ, joining us again from Paris. How are you, bud?
Hey, very well, thanks. And you? Great to be back on finally.
I know. It's great. Well, it's here. It's almost finished, at least for 2020. Nations League. Despite of what you think of the tournament, some really good fixtures, some good talented teams. Let's break it down. Let's talk about the biggest talking points, JJ, beginning, I guess, with England against Belgium. Despite a pretty good performance, I thought, especially from our boy Jack Grealish, Belgium wins 2-0, meaning that England, their chances of, winning their group is over. How did you see it?
Yeah, obviously slightly disappointing for England, considering that they got to the latter stages in the last edition, finished third. They won't get the chance to better that this time. But I think there's mixed feelings about the results. Yeah, if England had played better in that first half, perhaps they could have come away with a draw and kept things alive for the final round of matches. But I think that it's encouraging at least to see Gareth Southgate experimenting, giving chances to new blood like Jack Grealish, because Grealish is the guy that everyone's talking about right now after his performance. It was a very impressive showing from him on a night when there weren't too many impressive performances on the England side. I'd say that logic was followed with the result. Yuri Tielemans, Dries Mertens grabbing the goals. Obviously, things could have been a bit different if Harry Kane had managed to score and Lukaku hadn't managed to clear it off the line. But I think it was, for me, I think what Southgate was doing with experimentation, trying out new combinations, is for me what the Nations League should be for the bigger nations. It's just a shame that we haven't seen that all the way through from the start of the group stage, because there's a lot of countries, I've spoken about it before from a French point of view, who could benefit from such rotation and experimentation.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And, as we look as League A, I guess the top teams of each group make it through. So, aside from France, let's get into France, because France is really the only one. We'll get into it in the others in a second. But France leading Group 3 ahead of Portugal, Croatia, and Sweden with 13 points. How did you see France, the past game, obviously, and the one coming up?
I saw an improved France against Portugal. I mean, let's not forget their awful result in the friendly against Finland a couple of days before, losing 2-0 at home with basically what you could call the C-string side. Really, it was not even a reserve team, with the exception of a few stars like Paul Pogba, who is looking a shadow of himself at club level at the moment. So I think it was a much improved display from the French. They were more disciplined. Deschamps will be pleased with that. I don't think there's too much importance attached to finishing top of the group for France, but to perform well against Portugal, home and away, they'll feel happy with that, particularly the fact that they managed to get that win away from home. N'Golo Kanté, so often the undersung hero for this French national team, coming up big, providing the goal. But there were some very impressive performances elsewhere. Martial was unlucky, came up against an inspired Rui Patricio, but Griezmann, dug deep and was very unselfish in his play. And I thought Presnel Kimpembe did an excellent job in central defence. And had he not been able to challenge Cristiano Ronaldo in the air, perhaps Portugal would have gotten at least a draw, and France wouldn't have been topping the group and going through. But I think it was from a French point of view, it's a result that they needed, even if they're not taking the Nations League too seriously after that humbling at home to Finland, which really was a dreadful performance. But my attention is more on some of the other groups at the moment, because everything's quite finely poised. You look at the group with Italy, and the Netherlands and Poland in it, and now that Frank de Boer's finally off the mark for the Dutch with a win as coach, I'm looking forward to seeing how that one pans out.
Yeah, Italy has 9 points, Netherlands 8, Poland 7. So the race for the top of that group is definitely up for grabs. And also, as you mentioned, in the England group as well, Belgium, looks good. They'll be playing Denmark, though. So the winner of that one will top that group. Then when you look into Group 4, that's a really tasty one. You got Germany, Spain, Ukraine. Germany with 9 points, Spain with 8, Ukraine with 6. And then Austria and Norway. But I believe maybe Austria has it just because of head-to-head. We'll see about that. And then Scotland, Czech Republic in Group 2. Any other talking points just from this Nations League, as we look ahead, I guess, to the final day of 2020?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the sort of the other big takeaway was that Dutch victory under Frank de Boer. It had been such a slow start for them. I watched the friendly in Amsterdam against Spain last week. It didn't really fill you with too much confidence coming into these final matches. The Dutch looked very laboured. Okay, they got some chances, but it wasn't as vibrant a match as I expected it to be. And I mean, okay, there's been a lot said about friendlies being played at this moment in time for obvious reasons with the COVID crisis, and some of the mess that's followed. I mean, we've seen the Republic of Ireland team getting themselves into all sorts of situations with that at the moment. But I think the Dutch really needed that result. It was a positive performance. There were a number of big showings as well. You had Wijnaldum chipping in with a couple of goals. Memphis got himself on the score sheet as well. Denzel Dumfries chipping in with a few assists. And I think that the Dutch really needed that, because De Boer had made going into that match against Bosnia the worst start to a national coaching tenure in the Dutch Football Federation's history. So he really needed to get that monkey off his back, and we'll see if they can now manage to pull off a result in the final round of matches and manage to top the group. But like I said, it's a very open group. We saw Italy winning 2-0 against Poland, and that's really set this one up nicely. It wasn't the most impressive of showings from the Italians. Managed to get through with a penalty and a late goal, but I don't think there's too many of the really big European nations who are taking this that seriously at the moment. Like I said, it should be a good opportunity for a lot of these teams to experiment, similar to the way that we've seen Spain approach things. but also in their group, you've got Germany, who now that they've managed to work out how to win these games in the Nations League, look like they're coming on strong. So at least it's something to look forward to from this last round of matches, that some of these teams still have something to play for instead of it just being a dead rubber.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always is the case, sometimes it's better to just wait when the, knockout, or at least the playoff situation, when those top teams from League A make it to the final part. And as you mentioned, the Netherlands has to play Poland. And if they win and Italy loses, then, we're looking at an interesting result. Finally, JJ, there was other stuff because, the international break is just kind of insane. It's like everywhere. But the final playoff winners finally complete. All the members, all the teams that will be part of the Euros in the Euros 2020, obviously being played in 2021 due to coronavirus. But we have 4 teams: Hungary, North Macedonia, Slovakia, and Scotland. Any thoughts from that? So good to see Scotland back in the European Championship for so long, after 22 years, I believe, right?
Yeah, phenomenal stuff. I was at school the last time Scotland went to an international tournament, France 1998. I remember that very well. Coming home from school just in time to see, I can't remember who it was, but it was an own goal against Brazil in the opening match of that World Cup. Unfortunately, that set the tone for the remainder of their tournament. But Scotland are one of those countries. I mean, they've suffered a lot over the last couple of years. Had their fair share, more than their fair share, of heartbreak. But when they're able to go to these big international tournaments, the following that they bring, the colour that they add to these spectacles is just phenomenal. I mean, people still speak today in France about the way that the Welsh and the 2 sets of Ireland supporters represented their teams during Euro 2016. And I think if fans are able to attend, next summer, wherever it might be, because there's a lot of debate at the moment as to where the tournament's going to be held, if it's going to be held in one country. There's been Russia mentioned, there's been the UK mentioned now. We'll see what happens, but wherever this tournament takes place, if fans are allowed to travel, that the Scottish will travel in their droves. And, it was so dramatic the way that things finished with the penalty shootout, having to check VAR to see if the penalty would need to be retaken or not, and just fantastic scenes afterwards, listening to that absolute banger of a tune from Baccarat. So it really is one of the feel-good stories of this international break, and there haven't been many, so it's fantastic to see them advancing. Hungary as well, a fallen giant of European football. We saw them briefly come back into the spotlight when they reached Euro 2016 and were neutrals' favourites for about 5 minutes. But the story, one of the individual stories of European football so far this season, particularly in the Champions League, has been Dominik Szoboszlai. So if you were to put money coming into this international break on someone to come up big in one of the competitive matches, I think Szoboszlai would be close to the top of that list. And for him to be able to send his country to the Euros in the way that he did with that phenomenal late strike was just incredible. And I mean, you look at the outpouring of joy, from the Hungary players and staff in an empty stadium. It was really, really heartwarming and quite cool for me as well to see with you had Loic Nego scoring the other goal. He's a Frenchman who's opted to represent Hungary. So that's another really, really nice story hidden in this international break.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hungary returning, to or at least waking up is great. And I've just been a fan of Dominik Szoboszlai for so long. He's going to be a great talent to watch in the tournament in Scotland. And just to echo what JJ said, that 2-1 win for Brazil, that was Tom Boyd in the 73rd minute, the own goal in 98. But the most important part that you mentioned was Yes Sir I Can Boogie by Baccarat, which, by the way, has re-entered the music charts at number 3 apparently in the UK.
To be honest, it's a travesty that it ever fell out because it's such a great tune.
Absolute tune. And if you don't know what we're talking about, please, I beg you to just, go into Scotland's locker room, dressing room after that game and just how they sang it. Absolutely amazing. Jonathan Johnson, so good to have you. And he will be back, obviously, even more as domestic competition, the Champions League and Europa returns. JJ, thanks so much once again, my friend.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on, and man like Jack.
I want to thank Roger Gonzalez and Jonathan Johnson for joining me today. Stay tuned to Que Golazo Pod because we have so much more. Follow us on Que Golazo Pod on Twitter. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. And make sure that you stay tuned because much, much more is coming up. Have a great day.